Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Captain Foley, and this is the Captain's Log. Sounds dirtier than it is, probably. Shit. Hello everyone and welcome back to Trekyards. I am Captain Foley and this is a Captain's Log. I haven't done one in a while. Hopefully it doesn't sound more dirty than it actually is meant to be, but that is okay. It's good to be back. I want to start making more Captain's Logs, but with Sylvia working from home and her office being like the room right beside the ready room upstairs, it's hard for me to film a lot of videos because I do a lot of filming up there because she's a trainer, so she's always talking and you can hear her through the wall. So I thought I would try to get back into the Captain's Logs by having a Q&A and kind of I'll try to film down here and also in the other room where my collection is, so you can see that kind of stuff as well, as opposed to just the ready room all the time. So I'm going to try to switch it up and try to get back into the routine of doing a Captain's Log. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the London Comic-Con marketplace that they did this year for 2020, the COVID edition. I was there with Sylvia and her mother, my mother-in-law, and I put up a video for it. It's on exclusively on the Captain Foley personal channel. You're going to find that a lot of these Captain's Logs, the more non-Trekyards related stuff, is going to be over there. So if you haven't subscribed to the Captain Foley's personal channel on YouTube, please go do so. There'll be a lot of different stuff there. I do have a lot of different and varied interests, and I would look forward to seeing you guys over there hitting that subscribe button and joining that channel as well, because like I said, there will be more videos coming and a lot of it will be focused over there, so if you can, please do so. All that being said, I actually filmed this whole thing yesterday. It was great, and then I went to watch it back and there was a few little things that were bugging me about it. The lighting was wrong, there was glares everywhere, the cursor for the screen here, there was a cursor sitting right there, so every time the screen changed you could see the cursor. Just annoying little things that really bugged me. Plus I had another Trekyards uniform shirt on and I had a little thing of, I don't know what it was, but there's like a fluffy thing here on my shoulder the whole time, and I could not watch the footage. I had some great answers, I had a great video done for you guys, but the lighting, the cursor thing, it got interrupted a few times with various things going on in the house. That thing, I was just going nuts. My OCD was screaming at me every time I looked at the footage, so I could not edit it. So I decided to refilm everything, try to give all the same answers that I did yesterday, if not better, and really give you guys a better experience. So hopefully you guys appreciate that. Maybe at some point that will be released as like a behind the scenes thing. Let me know in the comments down below right now, before you watch the rest of the video, if you'd like to see the first take of these questions and answers, because there was some good answers in there, and hopefully I can duplicate those today. And like I said, expand on them. So if that's something you want to see, and that's more of what will be behind the scenes kind of stuff on the Captain Foley personal channel. So if you can, let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. I would really like to know that, and I would really appreciate your input on that, guys. So hopefully everything is good here, all the lighting's good, and you guys can hear me okay, and hopefully I can just keep you guys entertained and make sure to answer all your questions, because you guys had some fantastic questions for sure. Let's see here. So we start out with Scott Anthony Miles, who said, would you like to see Cisco return somehow in Picard? I would absolutely love that, considering that he is the Prophet, now one of the wormhole aliens. He's got a non-linear view of time, so he can show up anytime, anywhere, and just do what he needs to do. I think him showing up in Picard would be great. Will Avery Brooks do it? Very likely not. Avery Brooks, I don't know if he's suffering from some kind of medical conditions or whatever, but he has not been one to be going to conventions and stuff. And some of the interviews you see with him, he acting a little weird. Some people say it's the drugs. Who knows? But I think there's also an underlying medical issue there. I would love to see Avery Brooks come back. As far as I'm concerned, Cisco is one of the best captains, if not the best. I know Kirk is the man. Kirk is the one that started it all. Archer's pretty good. Picard's, of course, the diplomat. So you can have, your opinions of each captain. Janeway's great in her own way. A lot of people think she should be locked up. I kind of disagree with that. But you always have your favorite captain. Cisco is mine, so I would absolutely love to see him come back at some point, but I really can't see Avery Brooks doing it, and I do not want the role recast. So as much as I want to say yes to the question you asked, at the same time I'm going to have to say no. I really don't want to see that. So hopefully that's a good enough answer. It could easily be done. It could easily be done. He could show up anywhere, anytime, actually, in the whole Star Trek timeline. He could show up in Discovery, whether they're in their actual time slot between NX and TOS, or whether they're still in the future, because we're getting into Season 3 soon, where they're 900 and however many years in the future. So he could show up anywhere. He's non-linear at this point. So yes, Cisco is a great plot device, but unfortunately the actor who brought him to life is not one that's likely to return. So next question is Los Santiago. Do you think the current rift between fans will be healed with Strange New Worlds, episodic flavor, and optimism, or will this rift continue to expand? I think that the episodic nature of the shows that they want to do for Strange New Worlds and the optimism is something that is much needed in Star Trek, and it's something that I'd really like to see return, especially the episodic nature. I think it'll still cause rifts. We've got the fandom menace who very much have their minds made up that all new Trek, anything associated with Kurtzman, whether he has any influence on it or not, just because it says executive producer Alex Kurtzman doesn't mean he's got a say in it necessarily. They're going to hate it right off the hop. That's happened with Lower Decks, which is a bit of a shame. Lower Decks is definitely made by a fan for the fans, and there's a lot of great stuff there. It's been a really great palate cleanser to have Lower Decks to watch after watching Discovery Seasons 1 and 2 and Picard Season 1. Now don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good stuff in Picard and a lot of good stuff in Discovery, especially Season 2. There's a lot of course corrections. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. Is Lower Decks perfect? Absolutely not. Is any Star Trek perfect? Absolutely not. And that's one of the things we pride ourselves here on Trekyards, is that we go through and we look at the good and the bad in absolutely every little bit of Star Trek and point it out. We're very fair and balanced that way. So we are looking forward to Discovery Season 3 coming up. Lower Decks has been very, very good for the community. I have a feeling that the rift between fans will continue even with Strange New Worlds, just because it does have Alex Kurtzman's name and it is associated with the new Trek, and especially the Discovery timeline. And it is the Discovery timeline, or Discovery verse, if you will, because it is separate from Prime timeline. Don't let them fool you. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. Don't believe that it's Prime timeline. It's not. It is the one anomaly out of 50 years of Trek that focuses, or at least revisits, the TOS era. I know it's 10 years before TOS. I think at this point, before they jumped into the future, it was actually like 8 years before TOS. So it should not look that different. And for them to say that this is Prime timeline and no matter what the visual record says is bullshit, do not buy that. Do not swallow that. Do not let them tell you that. If you believe it's Prime, that's fine. That's your own personal preference. I have 50 years of them revisiting the TOS era in Enterprise, in TNG Relics, in like I said, Deep Space Nine with Trials and Tribulations, excuse me, as well as, of course, Enterprise and Amir Darkly, where they represented the TOS era as it was supposed to be. It is a period piece. Just because it doesn't look as advanced as you might think it should, based on our technology today, it is still a period piece based on what they thought in the 60s, and it should be represented as such. And in Discovery, it's not represented as such. In Enterprise, in Amir Darkly, it was mwah. It blows anybody's argument out of the water that TOS cannot look good in a modern era. It can. If it's filmed properly, if it's lit properly, that bridge looks phenomenal. And they created additional sets as well, sets we never saw in TOS that looked very TOS. So don't believe the hate, don't believe the hype train. It is not Prime timeline, so Because of that issue with Strange New Worlds, I think it will continue to divide the fans, but I would like to see the fans kind of come together and realize that they are attempting to entertain us still. It is still Star Trek. I will still watch it. I do love Star Trek in pretty much all of its forms, and I'm always excited for new Star Trek, so that's where we have with that. As far as the Rift expanding, it depends how good Strange New Worlds is. If it does go back to a more TOS, TNG episodic kind of feel, I think it'll maybe mend some of that. But I mean, as we've seen, even with the fans of the prequels for Star Wars, as well as the JJ 2009 fans, now that they're getting older and the farther removed we are from it, and the people who grew up with it are really finding their voice and saying how much they love it and they appreciated it, even though the older fandom, the gatekeepers, if you will, might not be on board with that. So there's more acceptance coming along as people get older, and the fan base diversifies. So I think the rift will eventually be healed. However, the Fandom Menace, they've built their reputations, their channels on the clickbait negative aspect of it. They've blown past us with subscribers using that formula, so I cannot fault them for it. It works. It gets them the views. It gets them the revenue that they want, and so they're going to continue to do it. Whether they've believe that it's true or not, I think they've made up their minds. And they've also created this narrative where it's all going to suck, so they can't really go back on that now. And a lot of people say, well, they changed the landscape. They're the ones that fixed Discovery Season 2, and it maybe, but I think it's just fans in general saying that, this isn't quite what we wanted. They did do a few course corrections for Season 2 of Discovery, and I think that it's not the Fandom Menace that's responsible for that. It's just fans in general saying, that's not really what we wanted. I don't think they actually listen to the Fandom Menace. It's too negative. I'm to the point where I can't watch certain channels anymore, just because it's always negative, constantly. I cannot deal with that, so I don't watch them anymore. And I think CBS and the people in charge are the same way. If they do even watch anything at all, hopefully they would watch something a little more balanced. Just saying. So hopefully that answers your question, sir. Daryl Benz, despite how everyone feels about Disco, they have some nice looking ships, at least for Starfleet. The Starfleet ships in Disco aren't bad. They would make a lot more sense and be a lot better if they were in the post-Nemesis era. We have said all along, if they had said the show was post-Nemesis, or even its own retelling, its own universe, its Discoverse, if you will, we would have said you guys did a great job. Reimagining things looks great, or more advanced designs. Like the Discovery would fit right in post-Nemesis, as is. And there'd be no question about, why does it look like that? Why doesn't it look like TOS? Why doesn't it look like NX era that it's between? Why doesn't it, why do the nacelles look so different? There wouldn't be all those questions. It would be a simple, well, that's a cool looking ship. Good job, guys. Same with the Klingorks, as people call them. If they had just been genetically modified Klingons, or a race of ancient Klingons, or even the Herc that vanquished the Klingons, something like that, and even their ships, the sarcophagus ship and all the other wonky Klingon designs that we see in Discovery, they would very much be like, good job, you guys did a good job. So, yeah, but as far as Starfleet aesthetics go for Discovery, yeah, there are some cool designs. But they really fit in their own universe. They're a good reimagining, for sure. And even the Disco Enterprise, I love the Disco Enterprise. John Hughes did a fantastic job with it. It would have made a great Enterprise for 2009 for that remastered, reimagined feel, as opposed to what we actually got in 2009 for the Enterprise, which was not great. So that would be great, and yes, it is a cool aesthetic, but it's not Prime, unfortunately, and that's where it takes me out of it completely. So yes, they are cool looking Starfleet designs, but it's got to be an alternate universe, and then I'm totally on board with it. And that's why, in my headcanon at least, it is the Discovery verse. It is something different and apart from Prime Timeline. Despite what they tell you, despite what a lot of people believe, and a lot of people are on that train, the whole, it's Prime Timeline because CBS says it is, and they're the license holders, and they decide what's canon. Technically, yes, you're right. But, like I said, there's 50 years of Star Trek history and lore and canon that shows us that Discovery is the anomaly. So you have to go with that and just realize that them just putting their mark on it, pissing all over it, saying this is ours, we created this. You know, so that's kind of where I stand with that. But yes, there are some interesting looking designs for sure. That being said, there are also some other ugly ones, like the Magi class or the Maggie class, the Magi, whatever the hell it's called, class is ugly as hell. There are some other ugly Discovery ships for sure. And please, for the love of God, get rid of those shuttles. Get them out of my Picard. Get them out of my other Star Treks. They don't belong there. Lower Decks is course correcting all that with the way they're handling things. You know why? Because Alex Kurtzman, even though his name is associated, because it's the Kurtzman era of Trek, and he's associate producer, Alex Kurtzman says so in the credits, he has very little to do with Lower Decks, and it shows. Hand over fist, it shows. So time and time again, they're just really doing the right thing. So Nick Davies, any new models you're building? Excited to get your hands on? No, I'm still in the process of building my refit, which, as you guys know, has been quite a few years in the process. Now, I have built some little F-14s. I've built some up on the channel here. I have them. They came from Japan. They're like blind box F-14 kits, different squadrons. My buddy Michael got them when he was there. So I built up one of those. I've still got 2 more to build of those, and I got the Bandai kits. I've got some astromech droids like R5J2. I've got K2SO. I've got R2Q5, and I've got Boba Fett, and I got a few other small ones. Like the Bandai kits are great. They go together pretty much in one day. One day, maybe 2, and there's not much painting or anything required, no real glue. So those ones go together great, and they look fantastic when they're done. So excited to build those. I'll probably be doing live build-ups of those on the channel. I think I have actually done R5J2. He's upstairs. I built him a while ago. So that live is on the Captain Foley personal channel if you want to check that out as well. Subscribe to the Captain Foley personal channel. You're probably going to hear that a few times during this video because, like I said, a lot of my content that's just me is going to be moving over there soon. So, but yeah, other than that, excited to get my hands on. I'd like to get one of the Katinga 350 scales from round 2 to build up when I get my 350 refit done. Also, there's a Gatchaman or G-Force, Battle of the Planets, whatever you want to call it. The God Phoenix, the ship from that. One of my all-time favorite sci-fi ships, especially growing up. There is a kit coming out of that my friend Blappy sent our group chat a thing on that it's coming out soon. It looks fantastic. I'm really excited for that one. I can't remember the company that makes it offhand, but it looks beautiful, and it looks like something I really want to get my hands on. Like I said, that's been my favorite ship from when I was a kid. I remember watching that show, Battle of the Planets, before school, before I went to kindergarten, before I went to school in grade 1. I had to watch it in the mornings before I left for school, and I loved the Phoenix. It's just such a cool design. It's very fighter-like yet futuristic and spaceshipy. I love it. I used to build or make little paper airplanes, and my brother Steve would like draw the Phoenix on it, so it looked like the Phoenix. From the top, you'd have it drawn on the paper airplane, and from the side. And I would throw them, and they'd last a while, but then it's just paper, so it wears out. The nose gets all bent and just doesn't last, and it gets all crumpled, and I get sad and have to make a new one. And he was always much better at drawing the Phoenix than I was. He probably still is. He's a very good artist. But eventually I started drawing them on there, and then also Lego. I tried to build it in Lego a few times, and it just didn't quite have the right feel. So I do have one from Japan that I've had for a few years now that is really nice. I've done actually a video on it. There's a captain's review of it on the channel here. So I would suggest checking it out if you're interested in that as well. It's got all the little drop ships. It's got the Jason car in the front. It's got Keop's tank, Princess's bike, and then Mark's plane that slides out the back. It's a fantastic ship, and I'm looking forward to that model so much. So there you go. But no real models on the bench right now. The bench is kind of messy, as it tends to be. I clean it, I'll build a model, then over the next month when I don't have anything to do, I'll set stuff on it, and then just table becomes cluttered, unfortunately. Patrick Stevens says, "Oi, what Okay, he's got 3 questions. 1, do you think that we will see more Trek with stories and themes similar to what is going on in the world right now? I would hope so, especially with Strange New Worlds coming out. They could definitely do a pandemic-type episode where a pandemic is brought back to the ship. I mean, we've seen that a few times, similar. But a worldwide pandemic is interesting, and I don't think there's any current episodes that cover that. I would love to see that, but I think that's something that could be included in Discovery, future Discovery, or future Strange New Worlds, or even Lower Decks or something. I think it's definitely a theme that could be a thing. As far as, civil unrest and all that in the States, I mean, we've seen a lot of episodes like that, even in the 60s, that Star Trek has tackled. So there's always social commentary in Star Trek. There's always things that they can do, and they will do. And, we just got to, notice the social commentary in your face when you watch Star Trek. Some of it's very blatant, some of it's very subdued and very kind of tricky the way that they go about it, but some of it you can spot right away. So, number 2, he says, do you think the members of the Fandom Menace will ever just shut up and leave the fandom be? Probably eventually, but like I said, their formula works. They're making money. They're getting the subscribers and the viewers that they want, so they're going to continue the narratives that they have, which is fine. The problem is it's not what they call evergreen content or ever fresh content, ever fresh, evergreen, whatever. That's what we make at Trekyards here. Episode reviews. People are going to be watching Star Trek forever, and they're going to want to get people's thoughts on it, so they're going to watch reviews. The ship stats, any of our ship videos where we focus on the ships and the tech and talk about how it works. That's all stuff that people will use for reference in the future. So those are ever fresh videos. They're always being revisited and watched, and the views are always going up on them. Whereas current events, daily clickbaity stuff, rumors, within a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, a year, definitely they're forgotten and nobody goes back and watches that content anymore. So will they ever leave the fandom alone? I don't know. I think eventually it'll just... I mean, these kind of people have always been around. They've just been exaggerated and amplified due to the internet being as prevalent as it is these days. They were around before TNG came out. They were around. Always been around. They just haven't been as accessed by as many people and being as seen and as vocal as they are now. So they're always going to be there. I don't know specific channels. I think will be around for quite a while. Other ones will fall to the wayside. So it's all on your viewing patterns, guys. If you watch them, they'll continue to do it. If you forget about them or unsubscribe from them or whatever, they might go away. It's up to you guys, essentially. So yeah, that's kind of where I stand with that question. So I hope that answered your question, Patrick. And number 3, name one thing about the JJ Prize you like. I like the JJ Prize from the side. The profile view of it, just strictly from the side, even though the nacelles are a little bit too big and the neck's too far back on the secondary hull and just looks kind of weird. It actually looks good from the side. It looks like a hot rod. It looks like a hot rod version of the Enterprise. And I really appreciate that. It looks good from the side. I do like that. But as soon as you move it a few degrees any way, any other angle, it goes, what did you do? Stop. And it falls to shit. That being said, something else I like about it, it's very hard for me to come up with anything, honestly. The Aztecing, the way that the hull looks, I think is something that should have been in TOS, and probably was. We just never saw it because it wasn't high definition enough, even though they remastered it. I think there's still some Aztecing and stuff there. I love when people add little Aztecing or panel details to the TOS Enterprise. So I don't mind that on it. Other than that, there's really nothing that I like about it. It's an awful ship. I'm sorry. It just is. Like I said, it should have been Johnny's Disco Prize for a reimagined Enterprise, and then I would have been like, yeah, that was awesome, guys. That's how you reimagine something and do it right. So, let's see here. Dan Fairstein, hopefully I said that right. I was watching TNG since the late 80s through the whole 90s, and made me proud to be a human, and it was a role model to teach cooperation. Later I wrote some things for a university about psychology and philosophy. I encountered a more or less good doorway through Troy role to understand the basics of psychology. In the later seasons, some episodes were nonsense, but let it be forgiven. I mean, all shows have nonsense episodes, right? Since 2009, Star Trek morphed as if Disney had done a theme park. Science gone, science-based fiction gone, psychoanalysis and character evaluation gone. I think that pretty much sums up the picture we got today. From 2009, I do not see any reason why it should make me proud to be a human. As a grown man, I have no desire for things bumping for my attention without giving something such valuable back that I described above. There have been a ton of Hollywood stuff to feed quick action hunger. Reading this with the exact words I wrote, do you feel the same way? If not, tell me what is so valuable at 2009 and later Star Trek to teach human values to be on a scientific level. Best regards. I totally 100% agree with you. 2009 hit, Star Trek got turned into a popcorn action franchise, a summer movie franchise, popcorn movie as we call it. It definitely got dumbed down for the general audience. Because of JJ, he was a Star Wars fan. He turned Star Trek into Star Wars, and it just did not work. So I totally understand where you're coming from. That being said, Lower Decks has had a few, definitely got the character feelings back for characters. Discovery can always keep improving. I'm always hoping for something better from Discovery. I hope season 3 is a little bit more focused and a little bit more better. I'm always hoping for it to be better. Strange New Worlds, I think, will definitely fill that role. It's definitely something that I think the fans are going to look for, the optimism and the episodic nature. That being said, I think Orville is the replacement that you're looking for specifically, and I think that's one of the reasons Orville's so popular, is because Seth MacFarlane knows what made TNG Star Trek good, and he's encapsulated that within Orville. So Orville should make you proud to be a human. Star Trek should. It's still got a long history of doing what is good that made Star Trek good. There's things you can overlook about the new stuff, but yeah, it is very much shoot 'em up, action, adventure-y now. And hopefully we will get back into more something that we can be proud of as a human race and actually want to show alien species and say, look what we created. This is something that we want to better ourselves. We want to be like this. So there you go. Hopefully that answers your question. I do totally agree with you, and that was so well worded. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Ron Phillips, after doing Trekyards for 5 years now with all the behind the scenes and guests and events that you have been a part of, have your feelings or appreciation towards Star Trek as a fan changed at all? Great question. October 14th will be Trekyards' 6-year anniversary. We've been doing this for 6 years now. We have met a host of people, actors, designers, behind the scenes people, special effects people. We've met so many people like Doug Drexler, John Eves, Rick Sternbach, Sean Hargraves, Andrew Probert. Should have mentioned him before Sean Hargraves, but that's okay. We've met a lot of people, and that I can now call friends, and I never thought that I would have that opportunity. So that being said, yes, I appreciate Star Trek a lot more for all the hard work and dedication that go into it, and the people that are in it. The people are great. Going to the events is also great. We get to meet our fans, you guys out there watching this YouTube channel, which is really great. We get to meet just fans of the show, and it's as Doug Drexler says, it's a shared language, it's a shared history that we can just sit down and talk and be friends and have a great conversation off the get-go because we all have a shared history, something that we like and can talk about. So absolutely having appreciation for it. At the same time, Star Trek is everywhere in my house. I don't think I can go a whole day without saying Star Trek or hearing Star Trek or seeing something Star Trek. That's why vacations are important. The living room upstairs has no Star Trek stuff in it except for the DVDs that are on the DVD shelf. It's very much separate and apart because I don't need to advertise to everybody that I'm a Star Trek fan if they just come into the front door, right? So not important there. Everywhere else in the house it's kind of prevalent. So there are days where I just don't want to hear the words Star Trek or Trekyards. I just want to be done with it. I can also appreciate a little bit more of the actors' feelings. Like they've recorded so many episodes and things, and people ask, so in episode so-and-so, at the last half, what was your character feeling? It's like, I used to think like, well, really? You don't care that much? But you got to think, they're filmed out of order and things like that. So there are reasons for their thinking that. I will get a message saying, "Oh, I loved what you said today about about blah blah blah, whatever ship. I love the episode you did today." First of all, I don't know what episode we released. They're on a schedule that Samuel sets because he does the editing. He usually sets what is being released. So I don't know what's being released. Half the time, it can be something we filmed last week, something we filmed yesterday, or something we filmed 2 years ago that finally got released. So I don't know what's going on. And if it's something that was filmed 2 years ago, I don't remember necessarily what I said. A lot of times my views and opinions evolve and change over the course of the show on specific aesthetics or specific ships or something. And so I could have said something a year ago that I might not necessarily agree with now. So for somebody to come up and say to me, "Hey, I really appreciate what you said," or "I really like what you said," or "I disagree with what you said in yesterday's episode," and I'm like, first of all, what was yesterday's episode? Because I haven't seen the edited version. I just recorded it however long ago. So I understand that kind of frustration. At the same time, most of our stuff, it's not scripted. Unless it's one of the ship specific episodes where it's been researched and the script written by me, those I know a lot better as to what the hell I said or we said. But as for just the off-the-cuff reviews or the mission briefings or the first looks or just general discussions, I don't remember necessarily what we said because it was like a half hour to an hour long filming session, and we were just going off what each other was talking about and looking at the specific ship. So I have a good sense of what actors go through with that and the frustration, so I get it. At the same time, when I'm at a Star Trek convention and I see somebody that comes up to me personally and is like, "Hey, I love what you do with Trekyards," I'm not going to be like, "Okay, yeah, but I want to talk about my Camaro. I don't want to talk about Trekyards." Because I'm at a goddamn Star Trek convention. Of course I'm going to talk about Star Trek and Trekyards. So when people meet me, a lot of times they want to talk about Star Trek, and that's fine. Most of my closer friends don't always talk about Star Trek, but a few of them will be like, "Do you mind if I talk to you about Star Trek? Because I know you talk about it all the time, and I don't want to bug you about it." And sometimes I'll be like, "Yeah, no problem, absolutely. I love talking about Star Trek, pretty much any time." But it is the odd time where I'm like, "Let's talk about something else right now," just because I've had a long week of talking about Star Trek. So, yes, I have a more appreciation for the franchise, and I also have a more tempered appreciation for what people that are in the franchise have to go through. And same with the designers and the behind the stage people getting asked the same questions every time, every interview. And that's why we at Trekyards kind of pride ourselves to ask things that they might not necessarily get asked very often. You know, we don't want those standard answers that you can find in 15 different interviews over the course of 10 years. We want to ask them new stuff. So I really appreciate that, that we do that and try to bring something new to the audience. But at the same time, I get asked the same questions all the time, whether it be on a live, whether it be on when I'm a guest appearing on another podcast, whether it's at when I meet somebody live at a convention. The same questions always come up, like, how did you and Samuel meet? How did Trekyards start? What's your favorite ship? You know, all this stuff gets asked all the time, and it's like, I understand that's frustrating for the actors and for the designers now, but yeah, anyway, we try to pride ourselves on not doing that, so hopefully that answers your question. Yes, I still love Star Trek, I always will, and thank you for asking. John Hathcock, one of our administrators and moderators on the Facebook page, a great guy, good editor, makes some of my intros for the channel and things like that as well. So thank you, John. He's got a question or two here. He says, "Who out of all of Trek's staff and actors you've met would you want to hang out with the most?" It's like picking your favorite kid, man. I can't do that. They're all great. I mean, I love hanging out with John Eves. He's a fun guy. I love hanging out with Doug Drexler. He always makes me smile. I can be in the worst mood possible and just talk to Doug Drexler literally for a minute and a half, and I'm smiling. I feel great. He's a great guy. Rick Sternbach's the same way. He's sometimes a little awkward for me to talk to him. I just don't know what to say necessarily all the time. But he's always kind of upbeat, and he can be grumpy sometimes. I mean, they can all be grumpy sometimes. They're humans. And I think I hang out with Rick the most because I see him like a few times a year. I can't say. I mean, even some of the actors and stuff we've met have been great. So that being said, we don't get a lot of time with the actors one-on-one. It's more of a, we're Trekyards. Can you sign these ship prints for us and stuff? And then we talked to them for a few minutes about Trekyards and ships. So they're great as well, but I can't really answer that question. I think if I had to answer the question, I would probably say Doug Drexler. I would like to hang out with Doug Drexler more. I talk to Doug Drexler on a fairly regular basis, a little bit more infrequently than he would like, because a lot of times I'll message him or somebody else will mention me to him, and he'll be like, yeah, he doesn't message me. And I don't want to bother him. I don't want to message him all the time. So I do talk to him frequently, but just not frequently enough, I guess. So I would love to hang out with Doug Drexler more. I wish he was closer, because I think we could have some good conversations and some good times that don't involve Star Trek. So John also asked, what piece of tech from Trek do you think has changed the way we look at the world? Honestly, just the pads and communicators, which are now our phones. I think they are the world in our pocket, and in the 60s, you imagine that tech is so super futuristic, it'll never happen, and yet here we are. So that's, I think, the one that's changed the actual world and the view and how the tech is looked at the most. That being said, I think the best tech that we need from Star Trek is replicators and transporters. Once you get one down, you can pretty much do the other one, I think. They're very interrelated. But replicators would solve a lot of the world's problems. Transporters would do the same thing. It would make the world feel a lot smaller. I mean, it already is small, and, as a result, you got the Spanish flu, then you got coronavirus and how fast it spread, because the world is so small already. So if we have transporters in another 100 years and we get another pandemic, it'll probably be worse and should be transmitted a lot faster. Although that being said, the transporters hopefully will be able to filter it out. So, So I would say pads, communicators, phones, pocket computers are what has changed the way that we look at the world as not even Star Trek fans, just as people. And John also asked, what is the favorite piece in your collection? And again, it's like asking me who my favorite kid is. I don't know if I have a favorite piece in the collection. I do love my South Bend Enterprise, the reconfigurable one. That's really great. I do love my 350 TOS Enterprise, the one that I built with the lighting and stuff. That's also great. I don't know if I could pick one. It would change depending on the day. Also, I need a list or an inventory in front of me, because no matter what, whenever I answer a question like this, I'll say, oh yeah, that's definitely my favorite. And then literally 2 days later, I'll be walking by something and go, well, that's clearly more of my favorite than the other thing that I mentioned. So, so it varies. So I don't think I can really answer that, but interesting question. Patrick Stevens comments on that, saying, oh, those are the real questions that need answered. And then goes on to ask two more, and then John asks one more. So first two are from Patrick here. First one, do you think we will see a certain redhead's bare butt in Season 3? Of course, he's talking about Tilly. I would love to see Tilly's bare butt in Season 3. It's not going to happen. If we do see something like that, because it is a more adult show, we did see Klingon boobies, after all. If we do see something like that, it'll probably be a stunt butt or a body double, but that's fine. I'd be fine with that. But you're not going to see that, unfortunately. That's not how that character is going to be represented. As much as I love Tilly and would love to see that, no. And two, why are pugs perfect little babies? Because they're companion dogs. They're engineered. They were made by the Chinese to be companions. That's all they're good for. They're literally good for nothing else. They might be a little bit of a security alert system when somebody comes to the door, but other than that, they are just meant to be companion dogs. They just love you for you. They will follow you everywhere. You always have a shadow wandering around your house with you. There's a meme that makes me laugh all the time. It's got a pug and then the words that say, pug, we're going. I'm just getting up from the couch to go to the kitchen. I come. No, it's okay. You stay here. I'll be right back in a minute. No, I come. I help. And then, what doing? I'm trying to open the fridge door, but you're in the way. You're sitting in front of it. Oh, I help. I help. It's like, okay, well, can you please move? It always makes me laugh, the whole I help, I come. Because it's totally true. They'll come in the bathroom with you, for Christ's sakes, and just sit there and watch you. I mean, it's only fair. We go outside, let them go to the washroom, and we watch them. We protect. It's the pack mentality. We check out the horizon and watch for prey. or watch for predators coming to attack us while we're vulnerable. So we watch while they go to the washroom. So they feel the need to do the same thing. So it's the pack mentality. I just love pugs. They're just amazing dogs. So John, then I'll ask his fourth question. Theoretically, if you chucked a woodchuck on the holodeck, how much hollow wood could a woodchuck chuck? How much hollow wood could a woodchuck chuck if a holodeck woodchuck could chuck holodeck wood? Hollow wood? I don't know. Probably lots and lots of cords of wood. Don't know. San Adalberto. If your house was burning and you could save one non-living object after rescuing your family, pets, and vehicles of your vast collection of memorabilia and awesome playthings, what one object would you save? Well, the most important things are already saved. That's the family, the kids, the dogs, the Camaro. Those are already saved. They're on your list. I don't know. This goes back to my favorite thing. What would I don't know. Probably I got family heirlooms that my dad has given to me that from my papa that, I don't know. There's so many things I don't know. As far as Star Trek related stuff, what would I save? I don't know. I just, that's a question I can't answer unless you're in the moment, and then you're like, whatever. Then the old cliche, everything can be replaced. People can't, as long as you're okay. Yeah. So I don't know. That's a tough question. Olivia Julius asks, who is your favorite mod on YouTube and why is it Olivia? I don't think it is Olivia. Probably Jeff Jacobs. Fleet Paw Swiftback Tyler is really great. So is Brian. Ian's good. They're all great. All the mods have their awesome things about them. Olivia, you do too. One thing I'd have to say about you is you're super creative. Your super chats are always fun to read because this episode's sponsored by, and you come up with some crazy thing. It's always fun to see those. The creativity that you have is fantastic. Olivia's also designed some ships that have been on Trekyards originals, or at least one so far. There is more coming, I think. But yeah, Olivia's great, and yeah, good question, Olivia. A little bit loaded question, but good. Chad Hooker, 1. Do penguins have knees? Don't know. Google is your friend, probably. 2. If you hire 2 private investigators to follow each other, what will happen? You'll have some craziness, and you'll have people complaining to you on a constant daily basis. The private investigators will be complaining and bitching and whining because that's what they tend to do. But who knows? You should try it and find out. But seriously, though, he says, you may have covered this before, but how did you first come up with the idea for Trekyards? Well, as we've stated many times, here's one of those questions we get asked all the time. I had started this YouTube channel because I wanted more of a creative outlet, and Sylvia was the one that pushed me to do it. She's like, make a YouTube channel. People will be interested in your collection and things you have to say, and your model building and stuff. You can teach things. And I'm like, nah. Put it off for a long time. Finally made the YouTube channel. And that's why the YouTube channel address, or the name of the channel, it was Night Stalker 666, because with a K, Night Stalker with a K, because that was my gamer name for a long time. I didn't know what else to call it, so I called it that. So I created the channel, and then Samuel, who was in university at the time and going for filmmaking, he does a lot of editing, and as such, he listens to YouTube videos and podcasts and things while he's editing to keep his mind occupied. He stumbled across some of my videos. I mean, I did model building videos, I did showing off my collection videos, talking about my collection, and even some movie reviews and stuff. So he stumbled across my Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan movie review and watched it, or at least more listened to it, learned a few things, learned a few facts he didn't know, and just started watching more of my content and really, thought I was interesting. I also went for my walks where I'd do my rambles or just talk about whatever was on my mind. And I had mentioned that it was my birthday coming up. So Samuel, because he was a 3D animator and stuff, and it's always more fun to animate when you have an objective, not just animate for the sake of animating, but actually have something that somebody's would want creatively. It makes you more creative to do that because you're confined by what you think they'd want. He decided to make an intro for my channel, so it said Captain Foley and had the Type F TOS shuttlecraft coming through the O, and then you pan past the TOS Enterprise, and then it went to warp. with the name Captain Foley there, and I thought that was great. So I kind of asked for a few more, you know, and then we got talking, and we actually had a Skype call one day, and we kind of came to the realization we both really love ships, we both really love Star Trek. Why not create a show on YouTube that we'd want to watch? We ourselves as fans would want to watch. What do we want to learn about? Ships. So we started focusing on ships, and then came up with the name Trekyards, because like a dockyard, you know, but Trek related. So I combined Trek and yards and made Trekyards, and it was a great creative process. And the first few years, our subscribers were just climbing and climbing. Lately, they've really slowed down. But at the time, we were the only, and we prided ourselves on this. We said this for like the first 2-3 years that we were a channel. We were the only weekly Star Trek content in existence. There was no new Star Trek on the horizon. We were the weekly Star Trek content. We had a couple shows a week at some points. Trekyards Originals, Trekyards Legends, Trekyards One Hit Wonders, Trekyards Mission Briefings. So we'd had a couple shows every week, and each, like Monday would be one show, Wednesday would be another show, Friday would be another show, and Saturday would be another show. And then we'd continue it. And we tried to have a different show, or a couple different shows a week. So we did that for a few years, and now we're lost in a sea of Star Trek content on YouTube. There's so many channels out there that are dedicated to Star Trek. Not really to the ships. There's one or two like Space Dock and stuff, which have blown right by us subscriber-wise, even though we had him on and helped him out early on when he was just starting. We had him on our channel. But you know, so some of them have blown right by us, but there's just so much saturated Star Trek content on YouTube now. I think the algorithm doesn't really favor us for a lot of times. So that's how we came up with the idea for Trekyards, and you know, of course, we couldn't just stay focused on ships and tech as much as we would have liked to. There were new shows coming out. We wanted to talk about those. Those really helped our views. So we talked about those, and then we started doing the reviews, because we, you know, already talked about a lot of the ships. We've got a great, huge backlog of videos. So now we're doing the episode reviews and stuff, and kind of, because we're fair and balanced, like we look at the good and bad in all of it. We're neither shills nor are we haters. We want to create that content for people and continue to do what we live to do here. So that's why supporting the channel is a huge deal. Really helps us out and keeps us going, and we really appreciate it if you could support the channel in any way you can by joining the channel, subscribing, making sure that you go to the lives and put in a super chat or two, join us on Patreon. So many ways to help the channel and keep us making this content for you. So that's kind of how Trekyards came about, and yeah, we want to continue to do this for many more years, because we keep getting new Star Trek being announced. So it's actually like the second golden age, or the silver age, if you will, of Star Trek stuff right now. So, and we're right in the middle of it, and we've been there since before this second wave started. So we're kind of like a rock for a lot of people in a sea of, you know, turmoil that is other content. So, yeah. Derek Rankin, do you get as pissed off about Dark Knight Rises over time as I do? Basically, thanks to that film, Batman was around for approximately 1 year, then disappeared for 7. It ruined what could have been a great trilogy, as Batman Began was great. The Dark Knight breaks the stereotype by being better than the first. Then comes along The Dark Knight Rises. Even the name is weak sauce, and time has only allowed me to poke more holes in it, with 3 exclamation points. Well, Derek, I do like Batman. I don't think I've actually seen all those movies all the way through from beginning to end. I catch them all. I've seen them all, and I've seen all of them, just not in order, nor in one sitting for each movie. I usually come in halfway through, and then I'll catch the beginning of it later. So, I mean, they're good. I really have no one way or the other about it, so I don't know what else to say about that. So I'll have to watch them. But I'm sure that the third one is the weakest out of all of them, because usually when there's a trilogy and the second one's better than the first one, the third one always falls flat. So, not always, but 90% of the time falls flat. Derek goes on to say, if you are only looking for Star Trek questions, then is Ensign Mariner a potential better officer than her mother, and how fast could she be promoted up the ranks when she decides she is ready, as she seems pretty damn... goddamn, the Trekyards moderators are messaging me, and I was going to scroll up, and I clicked the link and went to the chat. So, How fast was she promoted up through the ranks when she decides she is ready? She seems pretty damn connected in her own way. She's probably a better captain than her mother. Her mother is captain of the Cerritos, one of the least important ships in Starfleet. So how good of a captain can her mother really be? Plus, we've seen some shitty captaining from her already. But she is still a Starfleet captain, so that says something. Mariner could probably move up through the ranks pretty quick. We've already seen her promoted from ensign to lieutenant. She skipped lieutenant junior grade completely in that episode and then got demoted again. We don't know how far she actually got promoted before she got demoted the first 1 or 2 times that she did get demoted. But I think she's got enough experience that they would bump her up pretty quick if they really wanted to and if she focused on it. That being said, it's on her record that she's been demoted, so I'm not necessarily sure that she could get a captaincy without some extenuating circumstances or dedication to the actual Starfleet rules. So that might hinder her a little bit, but overall I think, yeah, she can move up the ranks pretty quick. Derek also says, do you also want to see an episode of Lower Decks with Picard and the Enterprise and Riker on the Titan in the same episode? I would love to see that. You're not going to, though. If anything, you'll see the Titan. You might see Riker. You might see the Enterprise, at least the ship. I don't think you'll get Picard in Lower Decks, although that is a possibility as well. It's hard to say, but to have them both in the same episode, no, because that's going to become the new TNG, the Picard and Riker show, and it's really the show's supposed to focus on Lower Decks characters, so no, you're not going to see that, unfortunately. Paul Graham asks, what other non-media interests do you have, besides the obvious Camaros and Tomcats? Well, obviously Camaros and F-14 Tomcats, love those. I collect swords, I'm a huge Phantom of the Opera fan. Jack the Ripper, I don't know if you can be a fan of a serial killer, but I love the Jack the Ripper mystery and investigation thing. Victorian England, huge fan of, or know a lot about ancient Egyptology, big fan of that. Transformers, G.I. Joe, a lot of 80s shows I'm a fan of, not really fanatical fan, but a fan, or a casual fan. I also like 80s toys, things like that. There's a lot of stuff that I'm interested in, and like I said, go subscribe to the Captain Foley personal channel to get videos on all that other stuff. I do like swords. I'm a sword fighter. I know some medieval broadsword, fencing, and kendo, so I do know some different techniques there, and that's something that really used to take up a lot of my time. I really haven't focused on it in the last decade or so. Kind of got out of it and out of shape as a result. So, but yeah, that's something that really interests me, and I have a great sword collection. I used to have a better sword collection, and then I got divorced, and I had like 36 swords in my collection at the time. I didn't get any of them back, so I've had to rebuild my collection, and I'm missing some very important pieces from that collection. Especially my first sword that I ever got was from my dad. It was an Excalibur, and I cannot find an exact replica of it. I've actually found, that's not true. I found it twice over the last few years. A little bit too expensive at the time and I couldn't afford it. And a lot of people are like, well, like, this is the exact same one as yours. Yeah, the hilt is the same. Maybe the pommel is the same, but the blade etching is different, or whatever. I do have one exactly the same, except different hilt and pommel color upstairs. It's a hand-and-a-half broadsword, like I said, the Excalibur. But the one that my dad gave me meant a lot to me. It's the first sword that my dad gave me and got me into sword collecting, and it never got it back. So, ex-wives are a bitch. But don't get me started on that story. So, yeah, lots of interests and lots to talk about for sure. So, let's see. Paul also goes on to, how did you come about them? Well, he just kind of explained the sword thing. A huge Sherlock Holmes fan too. I didn't even mention that, which is weird. It's one of my biggest things. Don't know how I became a Sherlock Holmes fan, honestly. But because of the Sherlock Holmes thing, I became interested in Jack the Ripper because it's the Victorian era. I love the Victorian era, especially in England. It's a fantastic time period. G.I. Joe, Transformers, I just grew up watching this stuff. Same with Battle of the Planets and things. Those are more 70s, 60s, 70s cartoons, those ones. But most of my interest came about because I was introduced to it by my brothers, who are quite a few years older than me, so I kind of grew up with them playing with me, and the stuff that they liked I latched onto. So there's definitely a lot of stories as to how I got collecting certain things, or how I got interested in certain things, which, again, join the Captain Foley personal channel and you'll eventually get videos on this kind of stuff. So that's kind of the quickest answer that I can give you here. So we're coming up on an hour here, which is kind of long, but got a few more questions and then we'll call it a wrap for this Q&A. You've definitely got me back into the Captain's Log mindset. So Sean O'Neill, where in Ireland is your ancestry from? I'm aware that you are more than just Irish, but as someone whose parents are Irish, I'm interested to know this. I don't know where in Ireland I'm from, actually. But yeah, my genealogy is, well, my ancestry is Irish, a little bit of Scottish. German is another big one. German and Irish are like the two main ones. Also some Norwegian, because we did our Ancestry.com thing, and those were the main ones there. So, not sure where exactly from Ireland I'm from. I would like to learn more about my family history, but I don't know. So. B. Alan Alford, is there a way for fans to come together to influence CBS Paramount to stop monkeying with the history of Trek, to be at least as consistent with their own canon as Star Wars is with theirs, which, while still allowing for artistic license and modern technology? The only ways I think of is to say what you like and what you don't like about new Trek, and try to do it in a positive way, not necessarily a hate train video every day. Point out what you like and what you don't like, what you like to change. Petitions might work, although I really doubt it. I think the best way to change and actually make change in this department is to get involved with CBS and become one of those producers or executive producers or people that have creative influence that you can actually say, nope, the fans aren't going to like that, let's change that a little bit. That's about the only way that I can think of right now. And unfortunately, they've got people in positions of power at CBS in the world of Star Trek that don't necessarily know about Star Trek or are Star Trek fans. That's just the sad truth of it. So get in a position at CBS or Paramount where you can make these changes down the road. Jeff Jacobs, another one of our moderators and administrators. What is the first collectible that you bought with your own money? Are there any you have left in the box just because it is too valuable for your meaning, i.e. to maintain its value? Nothing I have left in the box, I don't think. I've even gone out so far as to buy like a Playmates TOS Enterprise that was sealed in the box off eBay, got it, immediately opened it up and put the stickers on it because it's got to come out of the box. That being said, I will buy 2 of certain items to be able to open one and keep one in the box, but those are more modern items, so I don't have anything that's old school mint in box kind of thing. So, first collectible I bought with my own money would probably be either my Franklin Mint Pewter Enterprise, my Franklin Mint Pewter TOS Enterprise. At least that's the story I usually tell, because I can't remember if it's that specifically or my 25th anniversary Franklin Mint Golden Pewter chess set. Not the 3D one, but the regular chess set that has the little figures. It was either one of those. I remember my parents had bought me 1 or 2 things from the Franklin Mint, and it's one of those things like it's worth $500-600. So you buy it and you pay like $55 or $60 a month until it's paid off. So Franklin Mint was great for that. But it got to the point where I wanted another thing, and I think it was the chess set, actually. And my parents are like, well, each, because the chessboard was free. The pieces that are gold and silver electroplated with the crystal base and stuff, those were like $60 a piece times 32 because it's a chess set. So you'd be paying for 32 months or weeks or whatever. I think it was 32 months. Maybe not that long. That seems ridiculous. Maybe $32 every, hold on, $60 every 2 weeks or something stupid like that to pay for it. And it got to the point where my parents were like, if you want it, you got to get a job. And I was like 15, 16 at the time. So my first job that I got was at McDonald's. I worked there for 3 months, got a better job, something more suited to me. I'm not like a down and get dirty kind of guy. I'm more of a upper crust nose in the air kind of guy, I guess, because I don't like getting dirty. But I got a job at the Stratford Library, Stratford Public Library. Worked there for about 3 or 4 years. And it was a page. That was my job description, page at a library. Paige, I believe. And yeah, basically responsible for putting all the books away, all the returned books away, signing them in, signing stuff out for people, putting the books away on the shelves, making sure the shelves were organized and neat, and just general cleanup of the library. So I did that for quite a few years. Met 2 of my girlfriends there. That's another story altogether. But yeah, I mean, that's, I think, what got into it. It was definitely the Franklin Mint's fault, being the first collectible that I needed to pay for, that I needed to get a job. As for the first collectible that I bought with my own money, it might have been something with my allowance that was a lot smaller than something that's so pricey, but I can't remember. I really can't remember, Jeff. But I remember something from the Franklin Mint is what made me get a job, and I'm pretty sure it was the chess set. I usually tell people it was my pewter Enterprise. I've mentioned that once or twice because usually I'm talking about the pewter Enterprises, and it's something from Franklin Mint, either the pewter Enterprise or the chess set. I'm leaning more towards the chess set because I think the Enterprise was like the first thing that they came out with, Star Trek wise, which my parents bought for me, and I loved it. Still have it too. And then they came out with the Klingon ship and the Romulan ship. I think they bought me one of those. And then they came out with the chess set, and I'm like, oh, I want that. And they're like, well, you better get a job because we're not paying for it. And then I bought like a few more of the pewter ships over the course of the years. So hope that answers your question. Liam Foley, don't you think the surname Foley is the best surname to have? I do indeed. Actually, our name used to be O'Foley. It used to be O'Foley with O apostrophe Foley or whatever. But we dropped the O'Foley like a long time ago. And David Bocher says, you sound like artists. Ha, Foley artists. Stuart, if you replace the rear end in your Camaro, it could just take your last name. I don't get that. I don't get what you're saying with that. If I replace the rear end in my Camaro, it could take your last name. I don't know what you mean by that. And I'm glad you said we sound like artists, like Foley artists, because every movie needs a Foley artist and not a catheter. Because there is such thing as a Foley catheter, too. Invented by a doctor, his name was Foley. But, you know, I'd rather be called a Foley artist than a Foley catheter, so thank you. Ashen Khan, will we ever get a Romulan TV show? No. That's just my simple answer to that. No. I would have no interest in watching it, probably. Well, that being said, it is Star Trek. I will definitely watch it, but I think it would be boring. And why would Romulans have ridges when they shouldn't? It makes more sense that they don't. We've talked about this a little bit in some of our lives. I don't like that they have ridges. I hate the TNG Romulans. I think it's a stupid idea because in Balance of Terror and TOS, they looked like Vulcans. Because you know what? They are Vulcans. They've just been off Vulcan for a few centuries. So some genetic modifications are fine. So either the ridges came from they tried to modify their genetics with Klingon DNA to make themselves stronger or something. They did some kind of modification that resulted in the ridges. Or it is mentioned they are Northerners in the Picard show, Picard series. So maybe when they settled on Romulus, they either bred with, there was maybe a race of people there that were on the northern continent. Some of the settlers, the Vulcan settlers, the Romulans, early Romulans, bred with them and developed the ridges, and that's why it's called a northerner thing. That's why it's not prevalent in all Romulans, just a lot. It could be also that they bred with Remans early on, and that's why a lot of Romulans have the ridges, because the Remans could be something in the DNA. I don't know. I don't like the TNG Romulans having ridges. It's a fact they do, so we have to deal with that. But I'm with you there. They shouldn't. But there are explanations too as why they might have them. So, Zach Gotchinor. I know Captain Foley and Commander Cockings read the Star Trek novels, but will we ever get a review or live discussion about the Trek novels? We might get a live discussion about some Trek novels. We've each read enough or know the synopsis of enough of them to talk about what stories we like best. We might be able to do something like that. As for actually getting an in-depth book review or literary review of something, you're not going to get that because we're not literary reviewers. We can talk about how good the Star Trek story is, how good the Star Trek facts are, whether it fits in canon, stuff like that. And that's more of a live topic. So yes, at some point we could probably do something about novels. But we both haven't read the same novels. I've got a bunch of novels that I haven't read, that I know the storylines of already. So it's hard to say. Alva Boyd Duke, notice the Transformers memorabilia in the captain's office. What is your favorite show, favorite Autobot, and favorite Decepticon? Good call. Well, there is my favorite Autobot right there, Sideswipe. That's my masterpiece, Sideswipe. There is him in robot mode, and there is the car mode right there. Also Optimus Prime, of course, has to be a favorite. But growing up, it was definitely Sideswipe because he was a Lamborghini. I'm a huge Lamborghini buff. That's one thing I forgot to mention for my likes. I've driven a Lamborghini Aventador. I've always been a Lamborghini fan, so very much a Lamborghini aficionado. Hope to have one day. Probably never will, but at least I've driven an Aventador and around a racetrack and a few other things which are really fun. So yeah, Sideswipe's always been my favorite because he's a Lamborghini Countach, and I loved Lamborghinis as a kid. So he was obviously my favorite. Plus, he had a jetpack; he could fly. He was the only Autobot that had that ability, really. So that was cool. My favorite Decepticon is probably Soundwave, just because I love his voice. I love the way he looks in robot mode. Plus the little mini-cons like the Ravage and Laserbeak and stuff that come out of his chest, I think are really cool. So Soundwave would have to be my favorite Decepticon. As for my favorite show, that's obviously G1 because it got me into it. There's a lot of problems with G1, but G1 has to be the default favorite. So pushing that aside, besides that, my favorite shows are Beast Wars or Transformers Prime. And it depends on the day as to which one is my favorite out of those two. Transformers Prime is so well done, so well written, so well animated. Beast Wars is the same. When Beast Wars first came out, I hated it. I'm like, they have the technology now to make cars and robots look good, straight lines, CGI, what the hell? Why are they doing animals? And I hated it. Then they tied it in with G1, and they found the Ark. And I'm like, ooh. So Beast Wars quickly became one of my favorites because it tied in with G1. And the stories are so well written. The character development is fantastic. The overarching stories are so well developed and done. It's just great. And a lot of people complain and bitch and whine, well, I don't like the animation on Beast Wars. The animation's fine. First of all, it was a Canadian company. It was one of the first full-length animated shows. And who cares? Yeah, some of the animation's a little bit, but you get used to it, and I love it. And some people are like, I can't even watch the show because of the animation. Well, then you need to reevaluate your priorities and how much of a Transformers fan you actually are. Because if you can't watch the show based on the animation, you're missing out on some of the best Transformers storytelling ever. So I hate that argument. I have no problem with the animation of Beast Wars. I rather enjoy it. And it develops over the course of the 3 seasons. You can see it getting better and better and better. And yeah, so those are my answers for those. Alpha Boy Duke also asks, what is your favorite ship outside of Star Trek? I think I've already said it. It's the Phoenix, Phoenix or God Phoenix or Fiery Phoenix from Battle of the Planets or G-Force or Gatchaman. And none of the remastered newer shit, the newer animated ones. No, the original one from the 1960s, 1970s cartoon series, which became Battle of the Planets here in the US and Canada, where they chopped the storylines completely into sometimes something nonsensical, and they added Seven's Arc 7 to get that Star Wars feel. And I love Seven's Arc 7 too. I'm a huge fan of R2-D2, as you guys know. So I love Seven's Arc 7, and I just really liked Battle of the Planets. I know his name isn't Mark for the leader. It's not Joe. It's not Tiny. It's not Kiop. It's not Princess. Those aren't the real names. It's June, and I can't even remember them all right now. But they have different names for the real Gatchaman, and I have a bunch of those newer Gatchaman stuff upstairs, but I really am a fan of that ship design. It is one of my favorite designs of all time. Battlestar Galactica would probably be up there for me. Brian Mosey, what is the answer to life, the universe, and everything? Clearly 42 is the answer. Or Stuart Foley. the answer is one of those. You take your pick. Depends on the day again. 47 would also be acceptable if you carried the 3. Depends how you do the equation. But 42 is generally the accepted answer for that. Jack Elwinger. Where do starships come from? Well, Jack, when two starships love each other very much, they meet up in space. They might create a warp bubble or two together, have some adventures. Eventually, after a time, they will both, or one of them, will arrive at a space station, a space dock of sorts. Dock for a short amount of time, and then leave. And then shortly after, the doors will open, and a brand new sparkling starship will emerge from said starbase or or space dock. So that's where little starships come from. Also Trekyards. Trekyards originals. Check it out, guys. Always new and original ships coming from fans that have created their own designs. We love bringing those ships to life. So Trekyards is also where starships come from. Or at least are talked about. John Shields, addressed that the mirror universe is the actual and only real timeline. I can explain if you want details to why. He did send me the details, and I gotta say, man, I love your theory. I think you're 100% right. The mirror universe is the actual real prime timeline. The prime timeline that we're all familiar with is an offshoot of that. And I love his review. I don't have his write-up here. I might do a video on it at some point, but John, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think that's a fantastic idea. You did a fine job writing that. So yes upon yes. I should have had that ready to go, and I apologize I didn't. I should have known that this was coming. But there we are. Let's see. Tyler asked, what's the story behind my tattoo? Well, I showed my tattoo off on one of the lives recently because somebody asked. The story behind that, it's very simple. I designed it myself. It has a demon face, kind of like a stylistic demon face, and a sword just killing my demons because I was going through some rough shit at the time. Got that tattoo when I was 34, just dealing with my divorce and a whole bunch of other shit in my life. And that sword that I used in the tattoo is my first sword that my dad gave me, the Excalibur one that means so much to me. That's there, and it's killing the demon that was my past life, and that's exactly what it means. So there you go. Todd Jenny, I can't wait for a holographic Captain Foley. Neither can I. He can do some of the shit that I don't want to do. Even just a clone of me would be great. Can send to, do stupid filming at stupid times of the day. Although I can never trust what he says because he's probably an idiot. If he's based on my algorithm, I need to be there to control my idiocy and keep it under wraps. Carl Feaster Jr., could anything happen that would make you stop being a Star Trek fan? Nope, not a goddamn thing. I'm not like one of these people that, new Trek, I don't like it, so I'm not going to watch it. I'm no longer a Star Trek fan. But you have years of other Star Trek that hasn't been ruined by this. Oh, I know, but I'm no longer a Star Trek fan. Like, no, shut the fuck up. You're a Star Trek fan. If every actor in every show, every producer, every behind-the-scenes person turned out that they were all sexual pedophiles or sexual deviants of some nature, or just, I'd still be like, okay, that's their personal thing. That's really shitty and absolutely not good. But I still love what you did. You still created something great, which is Star Trek. So I will always love Star Trek. Always. For all time. So. Ashen Khan, who would win from your point of view? Homelander in The Boys versus General Zod from the 1980s Superman 2 movie? General Zod, hands down. Kneel before Zod. I've only watched like the first 4 or 5 episodes of The Boys, so I don't really know Homelander that well. But I think still General Zod would be able to kick his ass. So, plus it's General Zod. Mo Fortin, hey, would love to see a review of the TMP's Yamato class. Would you guys be willing to do one? He added a picture of it here. Absolutely, the Yamato class is on the short list of ships that I'd like to do. I have a folder on my desktop that has FASTA ships in it that are worth talking about, at least for mission briefings. A lot of them I would like to do more researched full episodes on for Saturday releases, but it's not always the case because there's not always enough information or enough demand for it. So, because if we don't make something that's going to get views, then it's just a waste of our time because we're not getting the revenue, and it's just... So anyway, yeah. Those are ones that I'd like to review at some point for mission briefing style. So yes, absolutely. Malik Dumas. I need to switch to Synthahol. Probably a good idea. Probably the safest bet. Philip Barber, hi. When is Star Trek Picard on DVD? I have no idea. Again, Google is your friend. Find out from CBS. I'm not sure when it's coming to DVD or Blu-ray, but should be soon, I would imagine. Rav Lopez, what do you think of the idea of Patrick Stewart and Hamill tossing around about a Star Trek Star Wars crossover? I think it's the stupidest fucking idea ever. I do not want to see a Star Trek Star Wars crossover. I think it's just a rumor. It's just an idea they threw out. It's just a fun little chat discussion. That's it. The fleet battles that you see fans do online, like Star Trek versus Star Wars versus Babylon 5 versus Battlestar Galactica versus Halo versus blah, blah. Those fleet battles are fun enough to watch. I'd like to see specific scenes. Like I was recently on Michael Mercy. He's another YouTuber in southwestern Ontario here that focuses on 80s toys. I was on his show talking about Trek toys. And we talked about a crossover thing. I don't think it would work narratively, and I wouldn't want to see it. What I would like to see is conversations between characters. Han Solo and Riker sitting down at 10 Forward for a drink. I want to see their conversation. I want to have Data and C-3PO have a conversation. I want conversations. I don't want a story. I just want little scenes. Kind of like short treks almost. Like a what-if series, like the what-if comics. A what-if series of what if this person had a conversation with this person. That's what I'd like to see. But I think the idea that tossing around of a crossover, no, don't do that. John Conley, he could be a changeling. Who, me? Maybe. Dave, my buddy Blappy, says, who gets the chairs? And I was like, what? Huh? And he says, Stuart Foley, does the Klingon get the chairs? And I don't know what he's referring to. It's probably some inside joke, something that I'm not quite cluing into. So I don't know, Dave. Ask a real question. Jason Cooper, can I have all your stuff? No? Okay then, LOL. I'd say no. After I die, I'm sure my kids are going to hate me because I got to get rid of all this stuff. Hopefully it goes to somebody that's is a Trekyards fan that knows that Captain Foley had it. Not that I'm anybody special, but I would love to have it go to a good home. So hopefully they will know how to take care of it, get rid of it, sell it, whatever. Because none of the kids are going to be interested in it. So Sylvia's coming down for a second here, so I'm going to have to call it quits, and we'll get right back into this in a minute or two, guys. So hold on. Alright, I'm back for now at least. I think she's still wandering around. I love her to death. I really want her to be able to go back to the office to work. I love that she was here and working from home. Some days it's still fine. Other days I just can't get anything done. She comes downstairs a little bit bangy and clangy, even though she knows I'm recording. And I can't record in the ready room as I talked about earlier. So hopefully that gets all sorted. I love her to death, but hope she goes back to the office soon. Brian Magnus Singleton, will you ever do a Fleet Yards on the Visitors 1984 Mothership and Squad vehicles? Love your channel. Well, thank you for loving the channel. And as for the Visitors, or V, the Motherships and the Squad vehicles, maybe at some point, yes. It's probably on a list of Fleet Yards episodes we could do. But just keep an eye out for it. If there's any ship you're interested in, just type in Trekyards, Fleet Yards, the name of the ship, and then mission briefing. Hear this? And we might have done an episode on it. We haven't done the V ships yet, though. Leighton Hume, my room is filled with Transformers, so let me guess, you want us to call you Optimus from now on, says Christopher. Don't know what that's about. James McGill, what fan-made Star Trek shows, films feel worthy of being canonical in Trek universe? Definitely all of Star Trek Continues. Quite a few of the New Voyages stuff would also be great. There's some really good fan-created stuff. First Frontier with Captain April. I think there's a lot that could be canonized. great ideas, great premises. A lot of times I wish the acting was better and that the sets were better and that the special effects were better, but you can't complain. Fan created stuff. Fans love the world and the universe. So James McGill would love to see a crossover from other sci-fi sci-fi shows on Star Trek. No, most would love Star Wars and Star Trek crossover, but I would love to see Doctor Who TARDIS encountering the Enterprise. I mean, Samuel has done an animation of the TARDIS meeting the Enterprise, so there you go. Plus, the TARDIS, Doctor Who has crossed over with Star Trek in the comics, both the TOS and TNG. And we've also had the appearance by the Doctor and the TARDIS in one of the novels. I can't remember which one, but the TARDIS comes in, the Doctor sticks his head out, what planet is this? They tell him, and he's like, oh, okay, wrong planet, and closes the door and leaves, and then the Star Trek adventure continues on its own. Don't remember which novel that is, but cool little crossover there. You say most people would love Star Wars versus Star Trek. I do not want to see those crossover. There is no way to do that and have it be good. I'm sorry, but that would just ruin both of them. Don't. Derek Rankin, if you don't like glass view screens and windows on ships, why don't you mind the glass dome ceiling on the bridge of Starfleet ships? Because it's always been a thing on Starfleet ships to have a glass dome or a transparent dome thing. In TOS, it was transparent to certain forms of electromagnetic radiation, as the Franz Joseph Technical Manual says. In Star Trek TNG, there's always been the skylight there to see the stars. I have no problem with that. It's fine. It's a weak spot. Sure, whatever. But what I have a problem with is because of 2009, they have a fucking window as a view screen. Now every view screen on every ship is a fucking window, when that was never a thing for 50 years. It was just a view screen, and then the outside of the ship was a solid piece of hull with actually a corridor behind the view screen, usually for the toilet, the head back there. There's a service access corridor behind that, so there's no reason there should be a window. That's what I have an issue with. The fact that there's a skylight, I have no problem with. Have a window on the bridge. Have it be at the side, porthole window to look out. That's fine. Whatever. I don't care. If that was there all along, fine. The fact is, there was never a fucking window as a view screen until 2009, which is dumb. So, and now every ship has to have it because of that. That's what bothers me. Having a skylight, yeah, sure, it might be a structural issue. It could be a weak point. Whatever. Who gives a shit? That's not why I think the window as a view screen is a dumb idea, just because that was never a thing in Star Trek until it was, and now it's everywhere. Matt Deckard, are you now or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? No, and no. What decade are we living in, man? Jeff Palazzato. Would love to see more of your collectibles. Well, I do show off the collectibles quite often. I would suggest checking out my live Dusting the Collection. Type that in, Trekyards Dusting the Collection. I go through and I dust every piece and talk about it. I also do Captain's Collectibles Show and Tells, where I go through and I scan the items on a shelf, and then you guys super chat. You tell me an item you want to learn more about, and I'll tell you the history of it, whether it's the actual history of the toy or it's just my history with it. If I don't know the other history, I just talk about it. My history with it, when I got it, where I got it, what I've used it for, what's its story, if it was left behind in the divorce and I got it back, shit like that. So there's a lot of the collection out there, or even the Ready Room tour. If you look up Trekyards tour, you'll get like tours of the Ready Room when I finish the Ready Room and put the collection in there. You'll get tours of the workspace, which is this area down here, Trekyards Central Command, as I call it. And then there's the collection in the other room too. So I've got a lot of the collection documented on YouTube. So I would just say try different things. Even type in collectibles or collection and Trekyards into the search bar, and you'll find it. So. And that is it, guys. We are come to the end of our Q&A, which has been a fantastic Q&A. And this was take 2. So I know I included more stuff this time around. But yet the run time is about the same. So I definitely hit all the points I wanted to hit. And I apologize for the lengthiness of it. But you guys asked, you wanted to know. I thought it was worth telling you guys. And it got me back into the swing of things for doing Captain's Logs and just doing these discussions. So hopefully you enjoy these. Hopefully we'll have a topic next time. If you come up with an idea for a topic you'd like me to talk about, put it in the comments section down below, and I will try to incorporate that perhaps into the next Captain's Log. There are different things I'd like to talk about and focus on in these. If you haven't checked out past Captain's Logs, if you've missed them, type in Captain's Log. I've got a whole playlist of really cool topics and discussions and just Q&As, or me ranting, or just, you know, talking to you guys, answering your questions. A lot of times I read the comments from the past one, and I might do that in the next Captain's Log. So if you have a question or anything, put it down in the comments down below right now, and I might pick it for the next one to put in there. So anyway, guys, until next time, please like the video. Subscribe to the channels, the Trekyards channel, and definitely the Captain Foley personal channel, because like I said, a lot of these Captain's Logs and stuff are going to all be moving over there at some point moving forward, so they're not cluttering up the Trekyards channel. So if you want to get your dose of Captain Foley goodness, click the Captain Foley personal channel link and subscribe to that. And don't forget to share the video around with anybody you think would enjoy it. By all means, consider supporting us on Patreon, or joining the channel, or joining us for the lives and super chatting. There's always great ways to help us out, and we'd really appreciate it, because we like talking to you guys and having you guys come back for more. So until next time, guys, I am Captain Foley. Live long and prosper. See you soon.